Hello EAWAZ viewers, my name is Sia Baskar and I go to Rickanson Secondary School. This morning we are at the Mississauga City Hall with Mayor Bonnie Crombie to discuss women empowerment on International Women's Day.
The staff and the parents for ensuring all of you vibrant, dynamic, inspiring, and remarkable young women can join us this morning. You know, sometimes I run into your mothers who will say to me, "My daughter attended your breakfast," and they're all excited. So I'm so glad you could all be here today, and I only wish we had room for more people. So today is all about networking, getting to know one another, and there'll be a little bit of a brainstorming session with some big ideas that will bring about positive, bold change in Mississauga and beyond. And I want everyone to know that this is an open and inclusive environment. I want you to feel empowered, to be open and honest and speak your mind while, of course, being thoughtful and respectful of others. But before we get started, I'm going to play a video message for you from Minister Mariam Monsef, who is Canada's Minister for Women and Gender Equality, who sends her best wishes for our event today. Okay.
On behalf of Prime Minister Trudeau and the Government of Canada, I welcome you to this gathering of Mayor Crombie's International Women's Day breakfast. Happy International Women's Day. Over the past century, International Women's Day has been a focal point to recognize the contributions of women everywhere. We all know women who are making a world of difference every day. Because of them, we have come a long way in advancing women's rights and human rights. Women's Day provides us an opportunity to thank those women who have overcome barriers, those trailblazers and community leaders whose efforts and impact inspire us all. Women's Day is an opportunity to learn more about those women whose stories should be better known. Because of their hard-fought battles, we all enjoy greater rights, choices, and opportunities. That's why Canada's theme for the 2020 International Women's Day is Because of You. I invite you to take this opportunity to celebrate women in your life, in your community, in our country, whose contributions have made the movement for equality stronger. Women like Mona Numar, Linda Slavin, Farah Khan, and so many more. 2020 is a significant year for women's rights and for gender equality. It's been 75 years since the establishment of the United Nations, 50 years since the report of the Royal Commission on the Status of Women, 25 years since the Beijing Platform for Action was developed, the most comprehensive blueprint for gender equality. And we are in the countdown decade to 2030, with much progress to celebrate and so much work ahead of us. And as we all know, there is pushback to every step we take forward. We owe it to those who have come before us to continue their important work. As we come together to celebrate our achievements and honor women of impact, we renew our collective resolve to work together to push back against the pushback. Our government will always be a strong partner with you in this important work. Happy International Women's Day.
Wonderful, that was terrific. So I also want to mention that we have several dignitaries and community leaders and mentors joining us here today. There are many, simply too many to announce everyone because I think there's somebody special at every table. But first let me introduce our keynote speaker, Samra Zafar, and her daughter Sarah. Please to stand and be acknowledged. I have a number of my counselors here with me today. Councillor Stephen Dasco from Ward 1. Stephen's up here with his Karen Rass from Ward 2. Ron Starr from Ward 6. And right to the back, that's right. And Pat Sato from Ward 9. Our city manager, Janice Baker, is here. There she is. Several of her commissioners, all the commissioners. I think I saw Paul Mitchum, Jeff Wright. Please give us this. Please stand. Andrew Whittemore. Who did I miss? Come on, stand. Be recognized. Those are those brave men. And all our senior staff who are here. MPP Nina Tangri is with us, I think. There she is. I don't know if Ikra Khalid has been able to join us. Not yet, maybe. Our chair, Nando Unica, was going to join us. Okay, I think there are some senior leaders from Mississauga Fire Emergency, Peel Region, Peel Public Health, Peel Police, and both from the Dufferin, Peel, and Catholic School Board. So thank you all for joining us. We have school trustees Sharon Hobin here. For Sharon. Noka Dakru. There's Noka. Susan Benjamin. There's Susan. Luz Del Rosario. There's Luz. Excuse me. Student trustees Shiana Jesus Hasan. Here. She is. Kanisha Aurora. It's Kanisha. Marianne Mazzarato. Marianne. And who is the Director of Education for Dufferin Peel. And last but not least, the members of Mississauga's Youth Advisory Council. Where are you? The Youth Advisory Council, I think a couple of them are here who helped to organize this morning. Please stand up and be recognized. Wonderful. I also want to acknowledge all the community leaders who have taken the time to meet and participate in today's events. Thank you all. So many of you are getting ready to take the next big step in your life to pursue an academic career. And I'm sure you'll hear this all the time from your parents and your teachers, but I can't really stress enough the importance of a good education, especially for young women. The competitive edge you gain in college or university or in one of the trades will help lay the foundation for a bright and promising future. Whether you want to be a scientist, an engineer, a public servant, an electrician, or a firefighter, or a mayor, you just don't know yet, or maybe you just don't know yet, and that's okay too. It's a scary time. And there are a lot of unknowns, but I promise you it will not only make you smarter, but better rounded, worldly, and put you on the path to success. I can't underscore the importance of a good education any more than that. Simply put, higher education opens doors, and it's your passport to success and prosperity. And I know that our guest speaker, Samra, who will echo the same sentiment in just a few minutes. I'll be the first to admit that being a woman, especially in politics, isn't easy. I believe that as women, we can have it all, but not necessarily always at the same time. And achieving equity isn't always easy either, whether it's at school or in the workplace or at home, which is a struggle. I hear from young women every year when I host this breakfast. And while we are one of the most diverse cities in the world, I recognize that women's rights aren't necessarily as progressive in other countries as they are here in Canada. We're very, very blessed. Sometimes it's as if you're living in two worlds. I hear that from young women. And it's difficult not only to make sense, but help for all of you, but to bridge that gap as well. To feel comfortable not only pursuing a leadership role in school or that at the workplace, but feeling accepted and encouraged to do so. And as a child from an immigrant family myself, we're from Poland, in case you didn't know. On the one hand, we want to fit in with our friends, right? And be accepted at school, but at the same time, we have to respect our roots and our parents and cultural values. And we want to make our parents proud as well, because we know how much they sacrificed so that we could have this bright and promising future. And I'm always asked that question on what drives me and motivates me, and I always say it's to fulfill the legacy. They made that brave choice, took that risk of coming here to Canada, so I can't let them down. And I know you probably feel the same way. I also know that sometimes the promise of freedom and equality here in Canada isn't always the lived experience for many women. And our guest speaker, Samra, she knows that firsthand, and she's going to be sharing that experience, her personal story, which is a harrowing story, frankly, of adversity, but how she overcame abuse, isolation, and oppression, and ultimately broke free from an abusive arranged marriage. She pursued higher education, graduated at the top of her class, found peace, the opportunity to raise her beautiful daughters, found success, created a new life for herself and her children in Mississauga and now in Toronto. So this year's theme is Each for Equal challenges, and it challenges us to look deep inside ourselves and our identity, what actions we can take in our daily lives, no matter how small or how big, to challenge stereotypes, to fight prejudice, and to push that envelope. And an equal world is an enabled world. So today and every day, we must look deep inside ourselves and ask what actions we can take as individuals to help strike the right balance at home and at work while tackling some of the big issues that are preventing us from achieving true equality, including equal pay for equal work, discriminatory hiring practices, and sexism in the workplace, which everyone will encounter. Balance aside, there are still women here at home and around the world who are struggling for basic human rights. One issue that is deeply unsettling to me and that is happening right here in our own backyard, in our own city, is that of human trafficking. Girls as young as 13 are being lured online on various social media platforms and are being exploited through violence, coercion, drugs, gangs, false romances. And this is something that we're working very closely with Peel Police and the region and community organizations to tackle, but we need to send a strong message to the world that our girls are not for sale. This issue deeply impacts our teenage girls and the unfortunate reality that it's happening right here in Mississauga and beyond. Maybe some of you have seen the Toronto Life profile of the young woman from Oakville, a very affluent community and a very affluent family she was from, and she fell victim to it herself. So I want each and every one of you to know that your teachers, your principals, elected officials, community leaders, and Peel Police, we are here for you at any time you need us. If you are a victim yourself, are worried, or are worried about a friend, or just want to know more about the warning signs, we are here for you. Our doors are always open. I won't cover those warning signs. I'm sure many of your teachers or principals have, but if your friends are behaving strangely or suddenly have 2 cell phones or extravagant new purchases, then maybe something's not right and you should look into it, be a good friend. Okay. On a more positive note, before I introduce our guest speaker, I'm going to leave you with a few pieces of advice. Always be the first to raise your hand. Get in there early, get in there first. What they say, lean in, right? Never accept that you can't do something simply because you're a woman. Never accept that. Always push the envelope. Always take a risk, but make it a calculated risk. Volunteer, lean in, as I said. Put in the extra hours because there are no shortcuts to success. I mean, work smart, but work hard as well. And have the courage to put your name in, whether it's in the hat or on the ballot box. Follow your passion, but also trust your values. Trust your gut. If it doesn't seem right, if it doesn't smell right, it's probably not right. And don't be afraid to ask. Ask for that well-deserved promotion. You know the men do, and they market themselves a lot better than we women do. And speaking of working with women, work together, not against each other. And use social media to advance our collective agenda as women, not to hold each other back. And only by working together and lifting each other up will we tip the scales in our favor. So during your group discussions, you're going to be asked to answer only one question. Hopefully we'll have time, but certainly start to give it some thought. Let it formulate in the back of your mind as you hear Samra speak. And that the question is, what actions can we take to motivate our friends, our colleagues, and our whole communities to build a gender-balanced world in our boardrooms, in our government, in media, at school, in sports, etc. So how do we build a better gender-balanced world? So start thinking about that so that you will have limited time to talk about it. And we look forward to hearing from you about it later. So now I'd like to introduce somebody very, very special. So was so delighted she said yes and come and speak to us, because she's been a keynote speaker not only in the GTA, across Canada, across North America and abroad. We're just talking about her speaking in India next week, and her book has been very successfully launched. She's an award-winning writer and speaker, author of the best-selling book. It is a bestseller, and if you haven't read it, you better get yourself a copy. I found it extremely inspirational. It's called The Good Wife, and it has won much critical acclaim. Her story of silence and abuse is one that is unfortunately all too familiar to women right here at home in Mississauga, but right across the world as well. She is one of the most resilient, probably one of the most intelligent too, and positive people I have ever met. And I know her story is going to inspire you, as it has inspired thousands of women across the world to break their silence and break free from abuse. So today, Samra is not only surviving, she is thriving. This is her story in her words, so I won't say anything more. I'm going to let her tell you. So please join me in welcoming my friend, the inspirational one and only Samra Zafar, to the stage.
Thank you so much, Mayor Crombie. I am so honored and fortunate to call you a dear friend and someone that inspires me to go higher and fly higher and fight harder. So thank you so much. It's really, truly an honor to be here. I'm going to start off by sharing one of my favorite quotes by Maya Angelou, and I have that as my screensaver and wallpaper on my phone, actually. And the quote is, "If you're always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you can be." And it speaks very deeply to me, because throughout my life, since I was a little girl, I was told that to be a normal girl, I have to give up on my dreams, on my goals. Well, you're a girl, you can have these dreams, just don't expect them to come true. So when my friends and my cousins around me were dreaming about what color wedding gowns they're going to wear and bangles at their wedding day, I would be dreaming about going to Harvard and Stanford and getting a degree and changing the world. And often told that because of my gender, those dreams weren't valid. Don't forget you're a girl. Stay in your place. Fit into your box. Just be sort of downplay yourself. So those were the things that I grew up with. And I was often told to be silent when I was touched inappropriately or something else happened that was not right. Well, it's because you're growing up too fast. So I grew up with that, and I tried to fit in for a very long time. I tried to play the best of both worlds. But at the same time, this fire in me, there was this little rebel in me that always wanted to push. So when I wasn't allowed to go outside and play cricket with the boys anymore, I started a girls' cricket team in my school. When I wasn't, when I couldn't really talk openly about my radical ideas of gender equality, I started a school newspaper, and I pretty much wrote the whole thing myself. And I got the school photocopier and copied like hundreds of copies and stapled them together and handed them out to everybody at school that this is stuff you should read. So I was always a bit of a, envelope pusher. So I didn't really expect what would happen to me would happen. And one day, as I was in grade 11, I was in I was 16 years old. I was in my room doing my math homework, and my mom came into my room. She put a glass of orange juice on the table, stroked my hair lovingly, and said, Samra, I want to talk to you about something. I'm like, yeah, Ma, what's up? Like, you know, this friend of mine, and she always comes over to the house, and you've met her a few times. I'm like, yeah, that auntie. By the way, in the South Asian culture, auntie is every older woman. So that's the auntie I'm talking about. She's not related to me. At least she wasn't at that time. So I'm like, yeah, I know that auntie. And she's like, yeah, you know, she has a brother, and he lives in Canada, and, you know, he seems to be really smart, and he's educated, and he has a good IT job. So his family, they're really interested in you as his wife. And I said, Mom, I'm 16. I'm in grade 11. Like, what are you talking about? And she's like, well, you know, you have all these big dreams, Samra, like of going abroad and going to university somewhere, and it's not like we can send you. First of all, we can't afford it. And even if we could afford it, we can't send you. You're like, no girl has ever done that from our family before. It's too inappropriate. Like, if you were a boy, it would be a different issue. But remember, you're a girl. So this is like a win-win. And you'll get to go to school, and we won't be worried that you're going to be all by yourself, and you won't have a male guardian to look after you. And for the next few months, I had nightmares. I pushed back. I cried. I resisted. But then everybody around me told me that, don't be ungrateful. You're the first girl among all of us to get married. Like, you're so lucky. This is such a big accomplishment. You should. And I, you know, was just silenced, because when you're 16 and everybody around you tells you this is the best thing for you, you believe it is. And I did too. So I believed that maybe this is the best thing and I should just keep quiet. And a few months later, just after my 17th birthday, I found myself sitting in a big grand banquet hall, decked up in red and gold, beside this man who was 11 years older than me, a complete stranger. I'd never met him before, and he was now my new husband. And a few months after that, I arrived in this big, beautiful, and very cold country as his wife. And when I first arrived, I was actually living just down the street on Webb Drive in a condo. That's where I first arrived as a child bride. And I still remember when I got onto the flight to come to Canada, I was a wife now, and I was supposed to be this mature lady, and I had a little knapsack with Nancy Drew books and Cadbury Dairy Milk chocolates in there. So, in fact, that's one of my most endearing and heartbreaking scenes from the book, because it's such a contrast. So I arrived here, and I was lost, and I was scared, and I did not have any friends. I had no family. I knew no one in this country. But I had a little bit of hope that maybe this is the land of opportunities where I can go to school and fulfill all my wonderful dreams. Maybe it's not going to be that bad of a situation. So I kept that hope alive. I became pregnant right away. And one day when my husband was in a good mood, he took me to the local high school, T.L. Kennedy. Anyone from T.L. Kennedy here? Yeah. Woohoo! So he took me there, and the principal there, she saw me, and she saw that I was visibly quite pregnant, and beside me was this much older looking man who was my husband, and she put two and two together, and she had this look of sympathy and kindness and compassion all rolled into one on her face. And she gave me, and she said, honey, I don't think you'd be able to fit into the student body here given your situation, so here's a number you can call. And that number was for the Independent Learning Center. And this is a place where you can order your courses and do them through distance learning. So when I called the ILC, the person at the other end of the line asked me, how old are you? I said, I'm 18. And he's like, so why aren't you in school? It's kind of complicated. And he's like, so most of the kids your age who are not in school and are doing their courses through ILC are kids who are in prison for whatever reason. And I said, yeah, it's the same situation here. Because it really was. That's what it was like. We had moved from the condo here to a house in Streetsville, Mississauga, and I was not allowed to go out of the house. His family had come here as well. So it was him and me and his parents, his brother's wife, and we were all living in the same house. And I was not allowed to go outside. I was not allowed to have any friends, have any independence whatsoever, have any agency. And it was literally living in a house under house arrest. And I was told that I should be grateful that I got to the real purpose of being a girl sooner rather than later and didn't have to go through all that useless education stuff. And I tried for a long time to climb on that pedestal of being a good wife, of being a good woman, a normal woman, and all of that. But no matter how hard I tried, I fell short, and I suffered the consequences. Initially, those consequences were verbal and emotional. You're good for nothing, you're useless, you're worthless, all kinds of bad words, throwing things at me. And eventually, the consequences became more and more physical as well. And when the first bruises appeared on my body, I believe that was my fault too. And it's not like I was under lock and key and I was chained to my bed or something. But, the door was wide open, I could walk out. But then what? Where would I go? I had no friends, I had no money, no job, my family was not here, I had no support. I didn't even know what my rights were. I thought that because he had sponsored me, if I left him, I'd get deported and I would lose my child because I didn't have Canadian citizenship yet and I didn't have money for a lawyer. What would I do? And I was told by him and his family that if I ever spoke up, my kids would be taken away from me because I did not have a job and income and an education and I didn't have any way of knowing better. And that was my reality. And every day I would wake up and just wish that it would be a dull, uneventful day. That was my life. It's like living in a box with enough air that you can breathe and you can just survive, but not enough that you can breathe deeply and thrive. You're living in this state of constant fear, suffocation, walking on eggshells. And that was what my life was like every single day. It was a very dark time in my life. But even during that darkness, even during those really, really tough years, there was this little flame in my head, this voice that never went away. Maybe one day I can go to school. Education was something that I could not and would not, under any circumstances, give up on. So I did end up ordering my courses through the ILC. And I was given permission to do that as long as I was not going outside of the home. And every day, I would do all my chores during the day, fulfill my wifely and motherly and daughter-in-law duties, and then go in my room at night, and I would take out my math homework, and I would do my calculus questions and my economics graphs and my English essays, and that would be my happy time, my escape time, my me time. The whole day I would yeah, he's yelling at me, it's okay, I can do my math homework at night. I know they're being mean to me, but I can. I can't wait to write that new English essay that I have to do. And those little moments of joy, those little moments of freedom were like my little light in my darkness, like little rays of hope. And I did keep that hope alive in different ways. I actually used to stand in front of a mirror with a piece of paper rolled up in my hand like this, and I would practice the graduation speech that I would one day give, even when there was no hope of ever being able to go to university. But I just knew that if I gave up on my dreams, then who'll fight for them? If I don't respect my dreams, then who will? So I kept that hope alive in different ways. And I finished my high school courses. It took me 5 years. And I applied to university. I got in to U of T and to York. And my husband said, there's no useless money to waste on your silly little hobbies. So my dreams were crushed again. I couldn't get OSAP because they look at household income. And his income was above the threshold, even though I didn't have a penny to my name. And I wrote to OSAP, I called them, and I told them, I don't have money, they're not giving me money. And they were like, well, that's your family decision. I said, well, I'm not part of that decision. So, well, if you were separated, you would get the funding. I'm like, well, I can't separate until I get the funding. And you're telling me I can't get the funding until I separate. So how will it was like being stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I felt like all my hopes just going down the drain. Here I was with an offer of admission, and I could not go. And it was the most heartbreaking time of my life because I'd worked so hard. And my father had also passed away, so I didn't even have any kind of fallback financially to ask for money. So it was really a dark time. But one day I was at the local No Frills and with my mother-in-law, and as I was pushing out, and after the cashiers, there are these signs with like these community boards with like ads on them, like someone selling their couch, someone selling their TV, etc. Someone's renting out their basement apartment. So there was this sign there for somebody advertising babysitting services. And I was like, people can actually make money through this? Well, this is something I can do. I know how to take care of kids. I've got 2 of my own. So I printed out some flyers and stuck them around the neighborhood on mailboxes and traffic lights, and Kijiji was just starting up, so I put some ads online, and I started getting some clients, and I established a home-based babysitting service, and I started making money. And because one of the biggest advantage I feel I had in my journey was that I was fluent in English, so I was able to build a good home-based business. And I was given permission to do that as long as I was not being a shameless woman and going outside of the family and working and outside of the home, so staying at home is okay. So I also got my mother-in-law involved in the daycare so that she'd be on board with it, and she was making some money, and most of my money would be taken away from me, put towards the household expenses, but I would still stash away a few $100s here and there, $100, $200 every month on the side to build a little nest egg, the $2,500 or so that I needed for my first year tuition fee as a part-time student at U of T. And it took me about 3 years to build that little nest egg. And so finally, after 9 years of marriage, after 2 children who were 7 and 2 at that time, I applied to university. I got in, and this time I put my foot down. I'd also gained a little bit of leverage. I knew that the only way to get something done in that family and get little bits of independence was to get my mother-in-law on board. So I said to her, you know what, Amma, what if I pay for your driving lessons and mine too, and we'll learn how to drive together? And she was, yeah, let's do it. So I did that, and I paid for hers and my driving lessons. I got my license, she didn't. I stopped paying. Similarly, I figured out that if I needed a cell phone, I needed to get her on board. So I said, you love talking to your friends on the phone all day. And when the daycare parents call, the phone line gets tied up. How about if I get a cell phone, and then they can call on my phone, and you can talk to your friends all day? So that's how I got my cell phone. And then similarly, if you love to go shopping, I can take you shopping anytime you want if I had a car, and we wouldn't have to worry about the men in the house and their availability. So that's how I got my car. So I kind of learned how to play the system a little bit, and I got little bits of independence. So when I got into university, I had that leverage that I was working, I was bringing money into the home, and I could use that leverage to my advantage, that if I don't go to school, I'll stop working. So I was given very, very reluctantly, after a lot of roadblocks put into my way, I was given permission to take 1 course at UTM. And I took it. I took that, and I was like, this is it. This is my moment. And however, I got my admission letter very late. This was 2008, August. And classes were supposed to start in September. And all the courses were full, the first year courses that I needed to take. And they had long wait lists. So I took my admission letter to the registrar office at UTM. And then Jessica, the person at the registrar office, she's like one of my favorite people. I'll never forget her. She said, well, it's weird. You just got your admission letter now, like this late? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, let me see your high school transcript. She saw my transcript. She saw like all my grades were straight A's. She's like, yeah, I can see why they let you in. So who am I to stop you? And she bypassed all the wait lists and put me on those courses. And I'll always be grateful. And I walked out of UTM that day with my shiny UT card, my most prized possession to this day, and I just felt on top of the world. I'm like, oh my God, school. And then a few weeks later, I was sitting in my first ever lecture, Economics 100 at UTM. I got there 15 minutes early, middle row, middle seat, big goofy smile, tears streaming down my face, and thinking, oh my God, this is actually happening. And I was given very strict instructions. Don't make friends. Don't talk to anyone. Don't raise your hand in class. Don't answer questions. Don't talk to your professors. In other words, be invisible. And in the beginning, I really thought that my husband had spies on campus who are watching me, and they will report that back to him. So I would try to be on my best behavior because I didn't want to jeopardize my chances of going to school. And so I didn't talk to anyone. And whenever anyone tried to talk to me, my internal dialogue would be like, no, this person's going to find out that I'm good for nothing, I'm useless, I'm worthless, I don't deserve this, and they won't talk to me ever again. So I wouldn't even engage. But I started pulling really good grades. And I was getting hundreds on my test. The profs would announce my name in class, and then people would want to talk to me, and they would be like, hey, you're so smart. How did you solve that question? Let's go grab coffee. It's half-price chicken wings on Tuesdays at the student pub. Let's go grab some. You want to join our study group? And I was actually being respected. I was being treated with kindness for the first time in my life. And I could not believe it. And then I would go home, and I would be told, treated as if I didn't even deserve the least amount of respect, love, or kindness. So I couldn't understand what's going on. And I started to slowly raise my hand in class and answer those questions. The first time I did that, I was like, okay, I'll test it out. And then I went home. So I raised my hand in class, and I answered a question, and everybody was so impressed. Oh, wow, she got that right. And then I went home, and my husband knew nothing about it. I'm like, so he doesn't have spies on campus. So I was like, great, I'm going to participate fully in class. And I used to love being in school. And then I would go home, and I would be insulted and humiliated and assaulted and told that I am just useless and worthless and don't even deserve the least bit of kindness. So I couldn't understand what is going on here. So here am I this rock star that everybody at school seems to think I am, or am I this, scum stuck at the bottom of someone's shoe, because that's how I was being treated at home. And one day, as I was lost in this dilemma, my thoughts, I was walking on campus, and I came across this sign which had a bunch of questions on it. Do you feel intimidated, like you've lost your voice, like you can't go on, like you're living on eggshells, you're living in fear, you've lost your identity? And I answered yes, yes, yes to all of those questions. Come in and make an appointment. We're here to talk. It was the Health and Counseling Center at UTM campus. I went in, it was like that sign spoke to me, just called out to me. And I went in and I made an appointment. And a few days later, I was sitting across from my counselor, and the floodgates opened, and I said, can you please tell me what's wrong with me? Do I need to cook better food, keep the baby quieter, wash better clothes, not have opinions, not talk too much? What is it that I can do to earn that respect? What is that elusive secret to being a good wife that I just can't seem to get? And if this is normal, if being treated this way is okay, then why doesn't it feel normal? And this was the first time anyone ever said to me, Samra, it's not your fault. No matter what you do not deserve to be treated this way. No one does. No one deserves to be abused. And that's the first time I heard the word abuse. And going to counseling and learning what was happening to me was wrong, learning that I had rights as a woman, as a human being, as a Canadian, learning that I did not deserve it and I did deserve better, that knowledge is what gave me power. It took all that abuse that I'd internalized, and it externalized it for me. I could put a name to it. I knew that my life could be better. It gave me hope. And the biggest factor for me was realizing that there's a generational cycle to abuse, and I did not want my daughters growing up thinking that it was okay. I did not want them to think that this was normal, and I did not want that cycle to be repeated with them, because my husband and his family had already started talking about their marriages when they were teenagers, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to let that happen to them. They will have the right and the freedom to pursue their opportunities and dreams. So I knew that if not for me, I needed to fight back for them, and I started fighting back at home. As I gained more knowledge at school, as I developed more confidence, I started fighting back, but that made the abuse worse, to the point when one day he was about to kill me. I managed to escape, and I managed to end the marriage. I did leave. One day I was standing in front of a mirror with a bruise on my face, and I told myself that this is it, I've got to leave. And I took my daughters and I left. I was almost homeless. I was almost out on the streets because he sold the house from under me. And luckily, I was a student at UTM. this place I call my second home, in fact, my first home. And I got a student housing apartment over there. I told them my situation. They gave it to me right away, and they said, don't worry about rent. Pay us when your OSAP comes in. And it was a tiny little apartment on campus, ugliest looking green carpet ever, but it was mine. And that is the first time that I felt safe at home. I could wake up when I wanted to. I could eat what I wanted. I could cook what I wanted. I could have friends over. I could have friends in the first place. And it just felt like I could breathe. And it was not easy. I was facing a lot of backlash from my family and the community that I came from because I was now a homewrecker, a shameless woman who'd broken up her marriage. I also faced a lot of adversity in terms of financial issues and other things. I had eventually deported him, but then I had to take him to court for child support and spousal support, and it was not easy. Every day I felt like maybe I should give up. Maybe everybody's right. I can't make it. Maybe it's not something a woman can do or is supposed to do. But then I would look at my daughters and I would just get hope that if not for me, for them, I want to get up, take one more step, one more time. And the big game changer for me during that time was the community that I found at school. The school is not just about getting your degree and your courses and your education. It's about building your life skills. It's about making friends. It's about building your network and your community. And it was that community that helped me rise up. I tried to leave the marriage 5 times before, and every time I was sent back or I went back because of being afraid and alone and isolated. But this time, the game changer was that community. The new friends that I made, because I was working 4 jobs or 4 or 5 jobs at one point on campus as a TA, as an RA, and I was working night shifts at the student office and as a mentor at the, night shifts at the student center and as a mentor at the office of the dean. And then one thing I also did was I realized that students on campus always are starving for home-cooked food, so I started selling my butter chicken to students. And I make very good butter chicken. So I started making some money and some friends that way. And some of those friends are still in my life. And I'm like, I know you're my friend for the butter chicken. And they're like, yeah, that's how it started, but now we love you. So I started to find out little ways of making money. And those are the people who showed up at my door with a tub of ice cream when I was having a bad day. Hey, you know what? Life is hard right now. Let's drown our sorrows in sugar. Are my professors who spent office hours and hours talking to me, motivating me, helping me believe in myself because they believed in me. Or my mentors who helped me make those critical decisions. Those are the people that lifted me up. And those are the people because of who I'm standing here today. And eventually, when I graduated as the top student in the entire university, and I won about 17 or so awards and scholarships, and there's this one award, it's called the Moss Award, which goes to one person annually from all 3 campuses at U of T. And in 2013, I was the winner of that. And when I won that, thank you. Thank you. That award, the recognition was amazing, the money was great. It paid my entire master's. But the biggest thing that award gave me was validation. Validation that I was not crazy for pursuing my dreams. I was not an abnormal woman for believing in myself. I was not doing something wrong and selfish for wanting a better life for myself and my daughters. It gave me validation that I was enough, and I deserved it. And I deserved to pursue my freedom and my opportunities and my goals. And it also gave me a question, this burning question that why? Why did I go through with all of that abuse and then come out with more success than I could ever imagine in my wildest dreams? I felt there was something more that I needed to do with my voice, with my story. I could take my awards and my fancy new job and ride off into the sunset and live happily ever after, and that would have been perfectly okay. In fact, a lot of my friends told me, just live your life now. You've earned it. But I was like, but what about all those people who are still struggling? I knew that my story was not just my story. This is the story of millions and millions and millions of women and girls around the world, including here in Canada, including here in Mississauga, in our neighborhoods, in our communities, who are struggling and suffering in silence because no one speaks up, because there's so much stigma and shame and taboo around it. And I wanted to get up on rooftops and scream at the top of my lungs, telling girls and women to believe in themselves, push those boundaries, push those envelopes, and never take no for an answer. And I just was like, there is a lot of life after trauma. There's a lot of good in this world. And I just wanted to do something. This was this burning desire in me. So the one thing that I could do was break the silence and share my story. And I didn't know if it would ever do any good, if it might help one person out there, maybe. And in fact, my daughter is the one who finally gave me that push. And she's like, Mom, if every woman thinks it's too shameful and traumatic to talk about, how will this change? I think you should talk about it. She was 11 years old at the time, smart girl. And I decided to share my story. It actually went online in a blog on my convocation day, June 10th of 2013. I got my degree in the morning, already a very emotional moment for me. Came home, and I logged into my social media, and it was flooded with thousands of messages from women all over the world, all over the country, thanking me for breaking the silence, congratulating me, telling me how they got inspired, how my story motivated them. And I just found the answer to my why, that this is what I'm supposed to do with it. I cannot change what happened to me. I did not choose what happened to me, but I can choose what to do with it going forward. And that became my life mission, my purpose, my calling. I started mentoring women in the community, meeting a lot of them over coffee, telling them that, like helping them through their issues and helping them break free of those situations, and encouraging girls, speaking at local schools. And initially I would just go to like event organizers and say, give me the mic. Can you give me the mic for 10 minutes? I have something to say. Maybe there's one person in the audience who needs to hear what I have to say. And it would be all on my own time, on my own cost. And people would say to me, why do you keep regurgitating your past? I'm like, you know why? Because my past is someone else's present right now. And that's why I will never, ever keep quiet, and I will never slow down. I hope one day I never have to do this, but right now I do. And the more that I've done this work over the last 7 years, speaking across the country, across the globe now, and with the book, and now the book being turned into a TV series and all that stuff, the more that I do this work, the more I find out how much it needs to be done. I have heard the same stories from rural Alberta and Indigenous communities to immigrant communities in Scarborough to executive towers of Bay Street. 12 million girls every year are pushed into marriage as children around the world. 1 in 3 women are affected by intimate partner violence, and the numbers are on the rise. It's all over the news these days. In fact, just an article today came out in CBC that I contributed to. 1 in 2 women are sexually or physically harassed in some way, shape, or form in their life. That's every other one of us. Is that acceptable? Absolutely not. And when you think of other forms of gender-based violence, like human trafficking, pedophilia, other things, like the numbers are absolutely staggering. This is something that is the most prevalent yet most hidden issues of our society, because we brush these things under the rug. We don't want to talk about them. They're too taboo. They're not fancy. We just want to we want to protect our children. But you know what we do? Instead of protecting our children, we actually fail to give them the tools to protect themselves if they encounter these situations within their own lives or in their friends' lives. And that's why I bring my children all the time to events like these. And I want to show them that this is a reality, and these are the tools that you can use to protect yourself and recognize those things. In fact, I say child marriage is nothing more than legalized pedophilia and legalized human trafficking. Because just because there's a marriage certificate attached to it does not make it okay. I have a great life now, which I'm grateful for, but I will never get my childhood back. I will never know what it's like to go to concerts with friends. I will never know what it's like to have your biggest worry being your next exam. I will never know all those things. I will never get my youth, and that makes me sad. I don't feel sorry for myself. I'm very grateful for my life, but that is something no child should ever experience. That is something no woman should ever experience, that love comes with abuse. that is something that no girl should ever experience, that her dreams are not valid and she doesn't deserve to pursue her opportunities like anyone else. And that is my mission in life, and that's why I continue to do the work that I do, and I will never slow down. My why is that man who wrote to me and said, I have decided to cancel my teenage daughter's wedding and send her to school after reading your story. Or the woman who said, I'm hiding in my local Indigo to read a chapter of your book every day because my husband won't allow me to buy it. Or, I was in rural Manitoba 3 days ago doing a speech at a high school there. And so many of these girls came to me and hugged me with tears in their eyes and told them how my story made them feel validated because they're seeing these issues in their life and their families. So that is why I continue to do the work that I do, because while, yes, of course, it's important to focus on breaking glass ceilings and getting more women into the C-suites and the boardrooms, absolutely 100% very important. I'm a very ambitious woman. I want to go as far as possible. But let's not also forget that so many of us are still struggling for basic rights to safety, dignity, and respect around the world, including here in our beloved Mississauga and in our communities and neighborhoods. And we need to be a voice for them. We need to break the silence for the millions of silences that are still waiting to be broken. So my final words to all of you today is that find that purpose in your life. What are you here in this world for? What is it that wakes you up every morning and keeps you up at night? What is that fire in your belly that never ceases to burn? What is that difference that you want to make in this world? What is that legacy that you want to leave behind? Whatever it is that you want to leave your mark, something that fuels you, and you haven't found that yet, no problem. Try different things until you find that. And trust me, when you find it, you'll know. I found my why that day. You will know what you're here for. And put all your energies towards it. Make that your mission, and I promise you that success will follow. It will. Believe in it fiercely, because if you don't believe in your purpose, if you don't believe in your dreams, no one else will. It has to start with you. Take risks and push the envelope. And Mayor Crombie talked about taking calculated risks. So ask yourself, is this risk worth taking? And don't wait for all your ducks to be in a row, because they never will be. Don't wait for all your answers. We often feel that, if once I know everything there is to know about this one job, then I'll take it. Or if I'm going to move to another city and do something very different with my life, I need to know everything that there is possible. But the learning comes from doing. So yes, you want to know enough to know that, okay, this is something I could be successful at. This is an opportunity I could pursue. And then put your energies towards it. When I started speaking 7 years ago, I had no idea what I was doing. I would get up on stage and I would cry because my story was emotional for me. But today I speak around the world, and I just had that hope that, I think this is something I love doing, and I will keep learning and get better at it. So take that risk, and something that speaks to you and sparks that fire in you, put all of your energy toward it, and you will find the answers. You will figure it out, because you have that ability in you to figure things out. Adaptability is our biggest human strength, and you will adapt, and you will figure things out. And the key to that is also building the right support system. So build your own cheerleading squad. I cannot stress that enough. And if you're not getting the things you need to be yourself and thrive and succeed, then you're not asking for the wrong things, you're asking the wrong people. I was told all my life that my dreams were not valid, that I was selfish, I was abnormal for having these goals. You're married now for so many years, and you have 2 kids, just accept this destiny and live your life. So what I was asking was to be respected for my individuality, my dreams, my goals, my ambitions. And I wasn't getting it. Was I asking for the wrong things? No, I was just asking the wrong people. Because the people that I have in my life love me for those very things today. And I'm very fortunate to have Mayor Crombie as one of those people. So it is imperative that you build the right support system. If you're not getting what you need, change your circle. And you will find those people, but you have to be true to who you are, and the right people will come in your path. And work together, work with each other, support and lift each other, give back, pay it forward, because by carving a path for yourself, you're also carving a path for others to walk in with you and behind you. So always remember to look back, hold someone's hand, and pull them forward with you, because that is what ultimately life is about. always, always take time out to volunteer. Even when I was at UTM working those 4 jobs and living on campus and dealing with the court cases and full-time school and raising my kids, I would still find a few hours every week to go volunteer at the Disability Center at UTM. And one summer I was assigned to this woman who was in a wheelchair, 65 years old, blind, deaf on one side, hard of hearing on the other, and she was completing her degree with distinction. And I thought to myself, wow, if she can do it, so can I. But also what I realized is even in my worst adversity time, when I sometimes don't even know where my next month's rent is going to come from, I still had the power to put a smile on someone else's face. I still had the power to make someone's life a little bit better. And that's the value that I want to instill in my children as well. Yeah, last summer, we were at Yonge and Dundas Square for a pizza night, and we had some leftover pizza. So as we were walking back, my daughter stopped to give that leftover pizza to some homeless people on the street. And one of those people, she said, "Oh, thank you, honey, it's my birthday today." And I asked her name, and she said, I think her name was Michelle. And I said, "Happy birthday, Michelle." And I turned around and I started to walk away. And the next thing I know, I hear this loud happy birthday song in the middle of the street, and I turn around and my children are just singing loudly, "Happy birthday" to Michelle, and others are joining in. And I just stood there, I was like, I don't care if you never get an A on a test, you've just made me the proudest mommy in the world. And, and my daughter said something so profound that day, which I'll carry with me always. And she said, "Mom, even if you have nothing to give someone, even if you cannot solve their problem, you don't have any money on you, just look at them and smile and acknowledge them, because there's nothing worse than feeling that you're invisible and no one cares." And that is something that I will always carry. So no matter what situation you're in, give back, pay it forward, and work with each other. As women, we need to do a much better job of supporting each other. We need to lift each other up. So instead of competing for a bigger slice of the same limited pie, let's all work together to grow the size of the pie so we all get more. So support each other and lift each other up. I cannot stress that enough. And lastly, don't worry about fitting in. Don't worry about this idea of normal, whatever that may be. Whatever, sometimes culture, society, all that stuff, they teach us how to, this is the box we need to fit in. This is, don't color outside of these lines. This is our place as a woman, as a girl. No. Let's defy that normal. And I'm an ambassador for Plan Canada, and our hashtag is Defy Normal, which I absolutely love. It speaks so closely to me. So defy normal. Redefine it. Define your own normal. That's something even more powerful. Belong to yourself first. There's a big difference between fitting in and belonging. Fitting in requires you to change who you are and, hide bits and pieces of yourself and be like everyone else, whereas belonging requires you to be who you are. And when you belong to yourself, when you really, really, shine in your own light and in your own glory, because there's no one else that's a better you than you, and when you are like that, you will find the right people who will gravitate towards you, because they are like that too. And you give others others around you the permission to also be their whole self and their true self. And that's what the world needs. There's no greater disservice than letting other people diminish your fire. And there's no greater disservice to yourself or to the world, because the world needs you. The world needs your fire. That's why you're here in this world, to be your unique self, to use your unique gifts, to make your unique difference. So shine in that glory and shine it bright. And carve your path and believe in yourself and in your soul that no matter what, you are enough, just the way you are. You don't need to change a thing. Be more of that. Do more of that. And believe in yourself. And I trust you, success will follow, excellence will follow, and everything will fall into place. As long as you stand in a mirror and tell yourself, yes, I can do this, and be your own cheerleader and be your own hero. Thank you so much.
I think we're going to dispense with the group sessions because we've run out of time, but this was far better. I just want to say that, what was it, 5 or 6 years ago we met?
Yeah.
It was actually this time of year, because it was at the Peel Region Labor Council Anybody here, member of Peel Region Labour Council? And it was their International Women's Day, and I was asked to speak as a young politician. I don't even remember if I was the mayor or just the city councillor. And you were at my table, and we started speaking, and I thought, wow, I said, what are you doing here? She said, well, I'm going to talk about my story. I've left abusive relationship, etc. And so I got up to speak, and normally I leave, because I have many other events to attend, and I thought, well, that would be rude. This young woman is about to speak, and it sounds like a compelling story, so I think I'll stay and listen. And that's how we became friends, and we've been together since, and we share a group of friends that support us both, and I'm very grateful for that, and for your friendship, Samra. And then if you haven't, I encourage you to read the book. It's built on the story she has just told you, and also seek out her Toronto Life magazine profile, which when that came out, that really shook things up as well. You were on the front cover. It is still the most read Toronto Life story ever.
Oh, these are so beautiful.
Oh, okay. For the photos. We know who you are. And I want you to open this, because there's, here, I'll hold this for you. Open this, it's really interesting.
Oh my God, this
really
is
beautiful.
so beautiful.
So this is artisan glass from our Living Arts Center. We have an artisan studio there. And I think if you look on the bottom,
Oh, it says from Bronnie Crombie, the mayor of Mississauga.
Right, we engraved them. So
It is so amazing.
Isn't that beautiful? And that's
It's
right across the
beautiful.
street at Living Arts Center. So congratulations and thank you again, Sandra. So these are down there.
Good morning, and it's so nice and pleasure meeting you, Mayor Bonnie Crombie.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us this morning for our very special International Women's Day 2020.
You made us so proud that like doing the breakfast is a wonderful idea.
It is. I know everybody has to get up a little extra early this morning, but it's worth it. And you can see the house is brimming with young, talented, beautiful women who are here celebrating each other, empowering each other. And yeah, we're going to hear from a very inspiring speaker.
And we are very proud of.
Don't you realize?
We are very proud of you that you are a lady, and pretty lady, a mayor. Yeah, yeah.
Well, certainly, a lot of hardworking doing what we are doing, but I know we have some very driven, very motivated young women here who are out to seize the world.
I know you are very busy, but what's the message for women?
To be themselves, but to be strong and resilient, to pursue their passions, to lead. I think people have confidence when they see women leaders.
What's the key of your success?
Oh, I've been blessed with having opportunities, but a lot of hard work and a good solid support from my parents and my grandparents. They were new immigrants as well, and I really felt I needed to fulfill their legacy. If they decided to move to Canada, I'd better prove to them it was worth it, that we'd made the right decision.
Very important thing. When you feel down, how do you motivate yourself?
Oh, yeah, look at my children, and I think, is that the kind of person I want to be, who's down? No, I have to be inspiring for them so that they can go out and conquer the world too. So.
Thank you very much. Pleasure. It was a pleasure listening to your speech and the facts of life you were telling, and it was so motivational for all of us. Would you have any advice you want to give to young girls and the older women or the mothers or somebody?
I think the biggest thing is to really believe in you and your dreams and never ever take no for an answer. If you don't respect your dreams, then no one else will. So you need to believe in your dreams, you need to believe in your goals, you need to love yourself so much that you don't accept anything less than unconditional love from others around you. And surround yourself with the right people. And if there is somebody in the community or your family that you see is struggling or maybe not, talking as much, or don't just assume that, like this person's rude and they don't want to talk, or maybe if their family problem, I don't want to ask them. Reach out and offer connection, because that can change someone's life. It changed mine. It's those little people, little moments of kindness that people showed towards me that helped me believe in myself and gave me hope for my future. And that is why I'm here. So the power of love, the power of community, the power of connecting with each other is so, so important. And that's what reminds us why we are here in this love, and we need love to be louder than hate.
You did a great job writing the book. What motivated you to write the book?
Well, the realization that my story is not just mine. My story is the story of millions and millions and millions of women and girls around the world who continue to suffer and struggle in silence because no one wants to speak up, because there is so much silence around these issues. They're taboo. Let's brush them under the rug. Let's not talk about them. But change is never created through silence. And when we speak up, when we are breaking that silence, we're creating change and we're giving others hope. So I wanted to do my part, and that's why I wrote the book, that maybe someone will read it and realize that the power to change their life lies within them, and they can also do it. So, and I'm really happy that the book is inspiring and motivating people around the world, and it gives me more hope, and it also gives me more fuel to my fire that I need to continue doing this work.
The thing is that over here, some set of minds, they say that they want the traditional wife. So, but the thing is, if the woman is working a high-profile job and everything, so what about how it's going to be then the traditional?
So I think traditions are meant to evolve. You cannot be stuck in time. And women and girls are much, much more than their role as a wife, as a mother, as a daughter-in-law, as a sister. And like, we're not defined by our roles. Our honor is defined by who we are as individuals. And more power to the women who choose to stay at home and be homemakers by their choice. So the whole thing is that the choice has to be the woman's choice in true meaning and true freedom. If she chooses that, great. And then she is just as empowered as a woman who chooses to be the CEO of a company. But women need to own their choices. And I choose to be, a woman who wanted to go after her dreams and someone who wanted to get an education and stuff. And that's great. And there are women who choose other paths, and that's great. But society is in no place and has no right to tell a woman what to do, because we are so much bigger than our roles and what society defines us by. So I think those traditions and gender norms need to be challenged, and they need to be pushed, and women need to be given the agency that they deserve.
Thank you very much. Love it. It was a pleasure listening to you, meeting you, and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm from EAWAZ TV. May I have your name, please?
Of course. Hi, I'm Taya Plastich, and I'm from Lauren Park Secondary School. I find this Women's Day very empowering, and it's a great opportunity for like-minded women to come and express their interest and have a voice in their community. Thank you.
Great. And your name, please?
I'm Karen Raz. I'm the City Councillor for Ward 2 in Mississauga, and this is a great time of year to get together with a lot of young women and community-minded women, and we look about how we can, lead some of the issues into the future.
That's so nice. Now I want to ask you any good message for women.
Well, number one, we have to support each other, and in order to advance many of our important agendas, such as lifting people out of poverty and affordable housing and reducing crime, it takes the community, and I think the women are really going to lead this charge in the future.
That's so good. So, your name, please?
Morning. I'm Diana Rushnov. I'm the city clerk here at the City of Mississauga.
So, any message for the women?
I think really we need to support one another, and for the other professionals that are here is to really share our knowledge and what we've learned over the course of our own careers and lives.
That's nice. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi.
Would you like to say anything about the women? You want to say your name, please?
I'm Mary Salmon. I'm principal at Clarkson Secondary School, and happy to be here with two students from my school who I'm happy to spend the day with, Olivia and Abijay. And it's a great event, an opportunity for young women to come together and be inspired by women who have accomplished wonderful things in their lives, and an opportunity for us to talk about important issues.
And any important message for the young women?
Just that we need them. They inspire us, and we want their future to be bright, and they're key to making it that way.
Nice. Your name, please?
I'm Olivia London. I'm a student at Clarkson Secondary.
Are you excited today
Yeah, very.
for the breakfast and meeting Mayor, also Mayor Combi?
Yeah, I've met her before and she's very nice, so I'm excited to meet her again.
You look in the camera. Your name, please?
My name is Abby J. Taylor, and I'm also from Clarkson Secondary School.
So what about the young girls? What do you want to say to them? Any message?
Just have like an inspiration or somebody to look up to and keep doing what they're doing, and also know that they have a say in the world today.
Thank you. Great. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Thank you. Are you excited today?
Really excited actually. Today's like one of the best experiences that I had in a while.
Any message for the women?
Just keep doing whatever you are doing. Just have fun in your life and just celebrate your accomplishments. That's who we are. So we need to be happy about it. It's a great day.
Thank you.